Hello, patrons. It is me. It is Queen Auset-Heru. And thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of The Witch Trials. All right, guys. I'm really sorry that this is a little bit late. I was supposed to record it on Friday and upload it, but I got caught up. Everything came crashing down to me and I got caught up. So I finally got a chance to finish this. I did watch it and take notes on Friday though. So all I have to do now is record this for you guys. And it's a very interesting film. This film is called The Witch Files. I was actually going to name this series The Witch Files until I saw this movie. So this movie has been on the list since day one, but I finally decided to go ahead and give it a go and check it out. Now, The Witch Files came out in 2018, and I'm going to tell you about the plot as always. Then I'm going to give you the vices and then the virtues. Okay, so basically this is what happened. There is a young girl who's doing a documentary for the school's TV newspaper yearbook kind of thing, you know. She seems to be on more than one committee basically. So she's doing this documentary and she's trying to do it on detention. So she goes to a after school detention and she walks around the detention interviewing the students that are in detention. Well, some kind of way, the conversation comes up of witchcraft because one of the girls in the room is supposedly a witch, and one of the people who's being interviewed, one of the young girls who's being interviewed, tells her this. Now they're being separated between males and females. It's only girls in this detention. The boys are in detention across the hall. So they call her a witch, and she says, "Yeah, I am a witch." Like, you know, like she doesn't even hide it. And they're like, "Okay, well, prove that you're a witch. What can you do?" The kind of thing people always say to you when you tell them that you're a witch. They're like, "Oh, what can you do?" So she was like, one of the girls said, "Well, get us out of here. If you're a witch and you have powers, get us out of here." So she says, "Okay, but you guys have to believe that I can do it." Mind over matter, law of attraction kind of thing, right? So they say, okay. And of course, she looks up at the fire alarm and she makes it go off. And they get out of detention because the fire alarm went off. So one of the girls is like, you faked that. You had somebody pull the alarm, you know, something like that. And she's like, "Yeah, because I have all these friends to coordinate something like that with." So they get outside. They're still talking about what just happened. Everybody else is coming outside now. And she tells them that she can teach them a little bit of witchcraft if they want. So they're all like, "What? We can do that?" She's like, "Yeah." So basically, they all meet her. They all say they're not going to, but they all end up going to meet her. And she basically has some paper, some spell, you know, some things that she bought, some ritual that she bought, and they do this ritual in the woods and decide on the spot to become a coven of 5. So these young ladies go on to like do all kinds of witchy stuff. They have all these abilities. They're able to talk people into things and all kinds of stuff. So they go on to just basically using their magic to get whatever they want. Finally, they start to get hurt. One girl, her jaw breaks. The other one finds out her eyesight is bad. The other one's losing her hearing. Like they're having all these weird ailments. And by the end of the film, they figure out that the girl, the original witch that taught them everything, is really a 300-year-old witch who comes back to this town that her family's been from since the burning times. And that she comes back to this town. She reincarnates over and over again and comes back to this town and basically takes victims. And the way she stays young is by sucking off the life force of the other witches that she recruits every time she comes back. So by the end of the film, they find a way to defeat her, but it's ambiguous. Like you don't really know if she's defeated or not. You know those films where the villain is defeated, but then at the end of the film you see the villain, so you're like, wait a minute, what? You know, like, so at the end of the film they basically kill her, and then on the last shot you see her watching them from across the street. So is she really watching them? Are they paranoid? Is it her ghost? You don't know. So it's one of those kind of things. Now, the film is interesting. It's not the best film in the world. It's not the worst film in the world. It's something that's interesting to watch if you're bored. You know, it really is. You're not going to, it's not something that you're going to write home to grandmom about, but it was interesting. And I thought it was pretty cool. And I'm getting ready to tell you how it fared on my grading system. Number 1. The vices. What did I despise about this movie? What happened that cannot happen that is just crazy? Well, number 1, they always were levitating objects and people. They were riding on broomsticks, and I'm sitting there like, they're levitating things, they're pushing people, throwing them across the room. I was like, yo, if I could do any of that, man, okay? So, totally made up. They had serious mind control with their magic. Like, they could make somebody believe that they gave them money. Like, they would go to the diner and make the woman believe they paid for their meal when they didn't pay for their meal. They would go to a store and get clothes and make the sales clerk think they paid for their clothes, but they didn't pay for them. Like, their mind control game was serious. And I was like, I ain't never seen no mind control work like that. Serious mind control. 3, they could push people with energy, like get mad at somebody and throw them across the room like the X-Men. And I was looking at them like, I wish we could do that. Man, please. 4, flying. I mentioned this before when I talked about them levitating things and people, but these girls was flying. They were straight up flying around. And I was just like, levitation and flight is something I would love to do, and it's nothing happening. Next, spells cause aging and stealing youth. This witch put some kind of spell on them that stole their youth. It stole the essence of their youth. You can't steal somebody else's youth. I've seen this concept many times. In this case, it was used with magic. I also remember a case of a woman named Elizabeth Bathory, I think was her name. And she was a woman, I forgot what, she had a nickname, but basically she was a noble woman who used to kill virgins and bathe in their blood. And she did it because she thought she was in that way able to steal their youth. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work with the blood, and it doesn't work with drinking the blood. It doesn't work. You can't steal somebody's youth, their essence. You can't. It just doesn't work. And in this case, you can't do magic to steal it either. And that's what this witch was doing. She was stealing the vitality from 4 girls every couple of decades, and then, coming and doing it over and over again. And you can't do that. At one point, one of the witches enlarged herself with magic. She made herself like 12 feet tall, like she's like a giant woman, And I was sitting there looking like, what? Like, she literally did this and was like stepping on cars. And I was just like, not going to happen, boo-boo. Making people see multiple versions of you. At one point, one of the girls did a spell where she multiplied herself, So it was like, which one is the real her? And I was just like, this is like something I see on a cartoon. We definitely cannot do that. Immortality. She returns every 17 years. So immortality is something that would be wonderful. I would love to be able to live for hundreds of years, go everywhere in the world, see everything, go to every museum, read every book. I would love to just live to be centuries old and be able to just see and experience everything. But ain't nothing happening. This is not happening. There's no spell that's going to give you that kind of immortality. Unless you can find Bram Stoker's Dracula, this would never happen. Next. Shoots fire and lightning out of their hands. So they could use their finger or their hand to shoot out lightning and fire, And I was like, that would be cool, but no. No, we're not doing that. At one point, she was in the woods trying to sacrifice a young male virgin, and she was using an athame. And if you Google an athame is a knife. It's about that big, and it's a knife. I've seen it with pagans, mostly like I've seen it with Wiccans and maybe other pagan groups too. And they use it mostly, it seems like, to like cast circles, maybe to chop up herbs. But from what I understand, they say it specifically is not used to cut any humans or any flesh or anything along those lines. So when she was trying to like stab him in the heart with it, I was like, wait a minute, you can't use an athame to stab him in the heart. But she was trying to do it anyway. So I was like, nah, we don't do that. Conjuring the dead. At another point, they conjured the dead. It was like they conjured the dead to help them against her. And you can't conjure the dead like that. I mean, you can call upon the dead, you can pour, libation to the dead, you can give respect to the dead, but you can't call them in to like attack, like an army, an attack army. It doesn't work like that. You can, pray and ask for things, and sometimes spirits will help you. But as far as me sitting here calling them and summoning them, and they come in here and do my bidding, I'm not going to say you can't do that, because I have heard of cases, but in the way that they did it, and then being so inexperienced and not even knowing how, it's no way they would have been able to conjure all the dead, spirits to come help them. So in this case, they definitely wouldn't have been able to do it. They could have called upon them. They could have asked for assistance. They could have interceded for them. They could have done a number of things, but in the way that they did it, it was like a physical attack, and that doesn't usually happen. Cinematography was painful to watch. That's not a magic thing. That's just the movie thing. The cinematography was jumpy, and it was shot from the point of view of a young person with a camera. So it was like choppy and jumpy, and it was all over the place. It like made me seasick watching it. And I was just sitting there like, oh my God. So if you have a problem with that kind of cinema, it's kind of like Blair Witch in that way, where you're seeing it through the viewfinder, and it's annoying. Now, what did I like? So I had 12 vices, and now this is what I liked. This is what actually could happen. Made the fire alarm go off. When she made the fire alarm go off, that's something that could actually happen. They call it groupthink. So it's when a group comes together and uses their energy to make something happen. It's not an easy thing to be able to do. It requires a lot of concentration from what I've read about it. But if enough people concentrate on something hard enough, something like a fire alarm, it's a mechanism. So you might be able to pull that off pretty easily. But it would take a lot of people who are really focusing on the same thing. I've seen groupthink exercises, and they've been able to do small things like set off alarms and things like that. So that's actually possible, but I doubt this group would have been able to do it, but it is possible. Let me see. So that was the fire alarm going off, and then the groupthink using that energy goes along with that. So there's two different ones, but they go together. She said at one point, the head old witch, the 300-year-old witch that was tricking them, she said at one point that magic is more religion than hobby. I love that she said that, because some people think you can just play with magic like a hobby, like you would play with some trains, or you would I don't even know what else you would use for a hobby, but they act like it's a hobby. It's like something you play with. It's not a hobby, and it's not something that you play with. It is definitely more religion. I would say more spirituality, because religion implies like strict dogma, and there is a lot of flexibility. So I would say it's more spirituality than hobby. Cast a circle with salt. In the very beginning, she was casting a circle, and she cast it with salt. And many people do cast their circles with salt. When you cast a circle, you cast it on the ground, and it is to protect whatever is inside the circle. Many of us do this before starting rituals, depending upon what tradition you come from. Some people don't use circles, so it depends. Then I saw some things that were very familiar. I saw the pentagram, which stands for, what is it now? The 5 elements: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. So I saw that represented in the movie. They were chanting, and witches really do chant. They left an offering in the woods. We really do leave offerings. If we call upon our ancestor or a spirit to help us, we do leave them an offering. That's very true. I saw candles and sage. We do use candles and sage. And we do rituals in the woods. They were doing a ritual in the woods. They did several rituals in the woods now that I think about it. And some of us do our rituals in the woods. At one point, one of them was attacked by a spirit. There are a lot of people who give this testimony. A lot of people say they've been attacked by a spirit or saw a spirit or has, a spirit do something to them. If you Google it, you'll see millions of cases of people who swear they were attacked by a spirit. Even the Catholic Church does exorcism. And the rite of exorcism is to remove a negative demon or spirit that has attached itself to a person. And the Vatican doesn't talk a lot about this. They're very hush-hush about it, but it's well documented. And you can find it right online. If you type in rite of exorcism, you'll see lots of stuff comes up. Even the rite itself, how they actually, the words they actually say to do the rite. So a lot of people have been attacked by a spirit, or at least claim to be. Feeling like you are being watched. One of the main characters says she felt like she was being watched. A lot of people who are being attacked by spirits say they felt like they were being watched, especially when they were in like a house they thought was haunted or possessed by something. A lot of them were like, I feel like I'm being watched. I never feel like I'm alone. And that's because according to the experts, they are feeling the entity staring at them or around them or whatever the case is. And that was the last one. So I had 12 virtues and 12 vices. So this movie pretty much broke even. So what would I give this movie? I would give this movie a C-, because a lot of stuff happened that I liked. But more than most of it was really just stuff that can't really happen, or is stuff that can happen and it was just embellished or exaggerated, I would say. I didn't like the movie though. I gave it a C- just for its accuracy as far as witchcraft is concerned. But I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. Put it like that. It was an movie. It was a movie that I didn't mind watching, but I would never watch it again. Unless somebody was playing it and I walked in. But it's not the kind of movie that I would call my friends and recommend, It just had too much fakeness with it. And the real problem for me was, like I said, the cinematography. It was like, and I don't like that kind of camera work. I want a steady camera, So that's the deal with the Witch Files. If you want to check it out, like I said, if you're bored and you want to check it out, go for it. But don't expect much. Like, really don't expect much. The stuff that I told you that I liked was really great, but the other stuff was really awful, especially when she made herself into like a 15-foot woman. I was just like, this is awful. Okay, so that's this episode of the Witch Files. Please come back next week, because I haven't decided the next movie that I'm going to do. But I'm thinking about doing the second half of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, The Crimes of Grindelwald. So come back next week, because you're going to love what I do next. All right, guys. See you later.